Hey everyone, Chloe here, and welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, ladies and lurkers and recovering masculinas, welcome. So I wanted to make a very necessary feminine school video on how to keep it feminine in the workplace and on how to deal with masculinas on the job or workplace bullies. And these are very important feminine skills for modern working women to have because the workplace is where modern women spend most of their time. And the workplace is your reputation. It is how you get your money, especially when you are your only provider. And in many respects, it is your creativity and your hard work. And you cannot allow anyone to sabotage your workplace happiness or your workplace potential by being naive and unprepared, especially when it comes to dealing with unpleasant personalities or non-team players or condescending colleagues or triggered, envious, and jealous coworkers, which all of us will or have experienced in the workplace. So learning how to develop your assertive feminine communication skills is not only about creating healthy boundaries, but it is also about better navigating what are often very uncomfortable situations and circumstances, especially when a woman has decided to put herself on a feminine journey of soft feminine power and soft energy and becoming more ladylike. Now, of course, the nature of work and measured productivity and commuting in and of itself requires a significant amount of dutiful masculine energy. But when it comes to keeping it feminine at the workplace, whether corporate or business casual or entrepreneurship, the obvious markers of femininity are dressing and looking the feminine part, understated makeup, dressing appropriately for your body shape, wearing heels, and otherwise nailing down a look that will help you to look and feel your feminine best. For energy wise, the best way to deliver feminine energy at the workplace is to speak in a softer tone, to use dainty feminine energy whenever appropriate, and to be a pleasant person to be around. And you cannot be fake or phony about being pleasant because being pleasant is directly correlated and connected to your internal happiness. As women who are pleasant to be around are generally women who understand that happiness is an inside job because no one wants to work around a craggy, hostile, complaining, dark cloud of negative energy, as those negative energies are not only a high maintenance headache, but are also very zapping and very draining to be around. And this negative energy will not only ruin your workplace reputation, but it will definitely destroy any chances at having feminine desirability. So to my workplace ladies, if you are internally unhappy and miserable, get help, get a therapist, and join a gym because an unhappy woman is an unpleasant colleague to be around, and you don't want to be that woman who is constantly shooting herself in the foot. Now, when it comes to putting yourself on a feminine journey, not only will it put a moving target on your back from the miserable and the unchanging, unhappy women at the workplace, but workplace bullies are notorious for turning up the volume on their chaos and their nastiness and their plotting when their feelings of insecurity are being triggered. And a feminine woman will always trigger a bona fide workplace masculina, which is why a feminine woman will always need to understand the power of having assertive, healthy boundaries, as boundaries are crucial and critical not only to your peace and your well-being, but also to your mental health. But the problem with boundaries is that most women will have weak ones, because women, for the most part, are conditioned and socialized to be people pleasers, especially if their personality is very timid and passive and introverted, as those are the personalities that are generally fearful of standing up for themselves. And they are very fearful of drawing lines in the sand and creating lines of demarcation. And women, for the most part, will often confuse and conflate femininity with being weak. And women who have weak boundaries, and I am not one of them, and are typically fearful of losing friends, and typically are fearful of not being liked, and are typically fearful of making unnecessary waves. But ladies, it is okay to prioritize your well-being over others because that is called adulting. So having strong workplace boundaries should definitely be a normal part of your everyday life, but especially in your workplace relationships. Now, being bullied at the workplace is way more common with women than you think, particularly if you are a woman who gets a lot of attention from the opposite sex. Now, the nuanced thing about bullying is that bullying is not illegal. It may be toxic, it may be unfair and draining and soul crushing, but it isn't against the law, which is why bullies will always seek to push and test the limits of your boundaries. But being bullied at work can and will harm your mental, your spiritual, and your physical health by giving you an ulcer, high blood pressure, unnecessary stress, anxiety, trepidation, and even depression. Because being bullied at the workplace is at its core a form of emotional violence, as its intention is to psychologically devastate you. Now, I first want to say that if you are being bullied or harassed at your workplace, please understand that bad behavior, first and foremost, is unprofessional, and that you didn't do anything to deserve being mistreated or feeling less than your best. But it is a proven fact that most workplaces will either have a very capable workplace bully, or the entire environment will either be highly toxic, or the morale of that specific workplace will be very low. But the typical workplace bully will usually, in the beginning, wear the mask of professionalism. And once the mask is dropped, your boss or colleague will often reveal an unhinged, mentally unwell, but power-hungry, narcissistic plum fool. Or they will be covert, which means hidden, with their nasty passive-aggressive energy. And usually their angst is driven by a strong desire to not be outshined by anyone. Now, here are some classic examples of what is commonly known as the very frustrating, unaccommodating, and unhappy workplace environment. Number one, discrimination of any kind, but more specifically according to race, gender, and age. Number two, spreading gossip or rumors or outright spreading lies to ruin a colleague's reputation. Number three, withholding necessary information that will help you to get your job done. Number four, erasure politics, which will include outright stealing your creative ideas and taking credit for your hard work. Number five, threatening or harassing emails. Number six, demeaning or belittling or yelling at you in front of others or during a meeting or during a Zoom call. Number seven, micromanaging every little detail of your job and basically undermining what you were hired to do. And number eight, gaslighting, which is a tactic that will often be used to undermine your work performance by denying your reality. But Masculinas or workplace bullies will often feel entitled to harass you with passive-aggressive behavior. They will feel entitled to outright bully you and to push you around. And those aggressive and predatory personalities tend to pick up on very weak boundaries, like a drop of blood in the water to a shark. Now, as a disclaimer, this video is not a one-size-fits-all problem solver. And this isn't a video on how to clap back or on how to be nice nasty in the workplace. Because as a feminine woman, I personally am not an advocate of getting down in the gutter and playing with people in the mud. Because when it comes to the workplace and protecting your bag, I'm more of a block and delete personality type. Now, the art of nice nasty or clapping back might temporarily soothe your ego in the workplace, but ultimately the art of nice nasty tends to backfire, as it tends to charge up very difficult personalities on an even deeper and more vexing level, where it will often become a never-ending competitive game of back and forth that will seek to drain you and to suck the life out of you. So yeah, nice nasty, I'm not a fan of it at the workplace because there are way more effective ways to garner respect, which is ultimately what you want at the workplace, and there are way more powerful ways to win at the workplace with a person who wants to engage in low-level petty games. So here are 10 winning ways to effectively deal with a workplace bully. Number 10, always use networking as your offense. A working woman should never be complacent when it comes to networking, because networking is how a working woman creates workplace opportunities for herself. So your job, ladies, is to keep your resume updated so that you can have access to the job openings that aren't available to the public. Job postings that are available to the public or job opportunities where tons of people have recently left that particular company are usually workplaces that are rife with dysfunction, toxic staff, and energetically will be filled with very low morale and lots of bullies that will often ruin workplace culture. So always network to improve your chances of getting an inside track, ladies, as those are the jobs that will typically have a healthier work environment. Number 9, know your human resources officer by name and be as pleasant as possible with them, as they will be your point of contact when you are reporting harassment. Number 8, always document your harassment. Write down all dates and times of your harassment, ladies, and write it down while the harassment is happening so that the aggressor can be forewarned that they are being put on notice. Save email threads, take screenshots of text messages, record those Zoom meetings, jot down the dates, times, locations, and names of any witnesses. Monitoring the behavior of a workplace bully and having actual recorded proof of their behavior will usually cause them to back off and will send the professional message that you aren't the one or the two when it comes to workplace respect. Number 7, if you can and if you are able, kill them with kindness. Only do this if you can. Not every woman has this feminine skill, but killing others with kindness can often diffuse and deflate a negative personality. Number 6, avoid them. Don't speak to them, don't engage with them, don't share niceties, and don't share your personal business or your plans with them, especially if you don't have to work with them day to day, and this will send them the message that you aren't interested in a workplace friendship. Number 5, be assertive. Do not allow people to figure out what you need. Tell them upfront that you will no longer be tolerating their disrespect and leave it at that. And by leaving it open, it will create an aura of mystery and fear. Because when you don't nip bullying in the bud, it tends to fester until it becomes an unbearable situation. And once that power imbalance has been cemented, it can be nearly impossible to remedy. Number 4, date hypergamously. Having a dating life gives a working woman something to look forward to, especially if you are hypergamously dating for marriage, as those are the dating prospects that will have the capability to retire you from your nightmare of working in a toxic, draining environment. Number 3, do not take it personal. Ladies, bullying is never personal, which means that a person who is bullying you is a person who was already miserable on the inside way before you arrived in the picture. But misery is always looking for company, so try not to allow the attacks of the offender to define your worth. Number 2, have a feminine wellness plan. Ladies, always have an ironclad feminine wellness plan in your back pocket, as feminine self-care will always be a feminine woman's best offense and her best revenge. So don't get caught being sloppy. Have a plan in place. Work out, eat right, get your sleep, meditate, journal, take a spa day, take a sick day, sleep in your softest silk, take baths, have your therapist on deck, and always have a plan to block out the negative noise in your life. And number 1, look for a new job and a healthier environment. Ladies, when you find yourself in a toxic environment, get your ducks in order, find a headhunter, and look for a new job, because your happiness and your peace of mind are always worth it. And as a bonus, for those of you who stuck around, here are some specific communication phrases that you can use to create healthy workplace boundaries. When it comes to gossip, you can say, starting with this phrase, I am not comfortable with workplace gossip, or it is not my place to discuss someone else's life, or I don't want to contribute to saying anything negative about the situation. Another feminine strategy is by asking for clarification and by asking them to repeat the nasty thing that they said, which they usually won't, and this works like a charm. Another phrase to say is, I've already said no and it makes me uncomfortable repeating myself. Or, if I change my mind, I will let you know, so please do not ask me again. Or, thank you for noticing, but I am not comfortable going into detail. Or when it comes to a difficult situation, That sounds very challenging, but that seems like an issue that should be handled by a professional. Or when it's time to take a timeout, let's take a break and come back to this later. And finally, for the long-winded person at your job who won't shut up, just say in your most assertive voice, "I hate to cut this short, but I have a deadline." So that is all that I have to say on this for now. Workplace bullies are a thing, but you do not have to be kind or sympathetic to people who aren't kind or sympathetic to you. And you most certainly do not have to tolerate abuse for years on end, all for a paycheck. A working woman must always create options for herself so that her life doesn't become miserable. So, ladies and lurkers, have you ever had to deal with a workplace bully? Please share your workplace nightmares and your survival stories below. And stay tuned for more Feminine School videos to come. And I will catch up with you ladies and lurkers in the next one.